Hello, and welcome to the Argyle AI Decision Maker Summit, revolutionizing business strategy with AI. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Also, be sure to subscribe to Argyle on YouTube for exclusive access to all our past events. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our moderator, Prashant Natarajan, Chief AI Officer and best-selling author, Velatura, Demystifying AI for the Enterprise. We're super excited to have Prashant and all our panelists for a panel discussion titled From Pilot to Scale, Operationalizing AI Across the Enterprise. Welcome, Prashant. Over to you.
Thank you, Nick. And I'm delighted to be here with this wonderful audience. Thank you, Argyle, for scheduling this. It feels like it's the best day of my year because I've got two wonderful panelists over here that I have absolutely the pleasure of moderating. They are both well-known leaders in our space, and I don't think I can do justice to their bios as well as they can. So I'm going to turn the floor over to our wonderful panelists, Shelby and then Ambi. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about your work, what you do, and also your favorite movie to keep things interesting.
Hi, everyone. Happy to go first. Thank you so much, Prashant. Thank you, Argyle, for hosting this. Excited to share some insights that I've learned over the past several years building AI for enterprises and deploying AI for enterprise. So I'm Shelby. I lead an AI research team at Salesforce. We build AI for our customers, and we're always thinking 6, 12, 18 months ahead of what our customers are going to need. That's why we're a research team. So we're building cutting edge AI. Along the way, we're often publishing papers. We're open sourcing a lot, but ultimately deploying cutting edge AI for our customers. So really excited to share a lot of the war stories and the lessons that we've learned along the way. Also happy to talk about cutting edge AI that's coming in the next 6 months, whether it's agents, multi-agent systems, small language models. These are all going to be key for enterprise AI. Thanks, everyone.
Your favorite movie, Shelby?
Oh, favorite movie. Okay. My favorite movie is Interstellar. Was that, I hope that was, is that Ambi's too?
That's right.
Oh my God.
That was mine too.
Okay. Sorry to take that from you, Ambi. Oh man. Okay. So Interstellar is the most amazing movie. So many reasons. I would say probably two main reasons. First, I love that Interstellar is pretty scientifically correct. I like that the visuals and the experience is really something that is really accurate to the physics. So in particular, one of my favorite scenes in Interstellar was they're on this planet close to the black hole, and that planet produces these huge giant waves. And when it comes to the physics and the science behind that, there is that is a feasible reality. So it's just mind blowing to see that. So I love that. I love that so much. And I think the other reason I love it is it really captures what it feels like to be at the frontier of anything, the frontier of knowledge, the frontier of what you're capable of, the frontier of science. And yeah, it's really exciting. It really it resonates with how it feels to be at the frontier of AI. We don't always know what's next, but we're fighting for clarity. We're fighting to bring the best technology we can. So love the movie.
Ambi?
Awesome. Folks, Ambi Ganesan. I lead the AI practice for our clients in the Americas within IBM Consulting. So what that means is I advise and partner with all of our enterprise clients in the Americas, help them solution and build and scale AI solutions for driving their enterprise transformation agendas. Been with IBM Consulting for more than a decade now, so it's been fascinating to see the evolution of how enterprises are adopting and leveraging analytics and AI for solving a lot of the core transformation problems. Favorite movie? Yeah, Shelby. By the way, Interstellar again, right? I mean, what's not there to like about it? Phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
Pretty much similar reasons, right? Like I love that they went into the depths of the physics and
Yeah.
a lot of research about it before they
Yes.
actually, went and painted how the event horizon is going to look like. A lot of the simulations of how, how that's going to look like. So, yeah, that, and then just to keep the score even, I'll say after that I'd probably say Avatar. Is probably
Why Avatar? Why is that your second? I'm curious.
like when it came on when it came out and I went to the theater, it was nothing like you had seen before, right? It was a completely transformative experience. Yeah, I went to the theater at least 2 times just to
Really
stop and just figure out like how the experience was going to look like. So it was, I think, completely groundbreaking and very transformative in the storytelling medium.
Yep.
Even in the a 2-dimensional medium, how you could bring some of that to screen. So I just love that.
To be fair, I've thanks for asking this question, Prashant, because I've also, talked to other folks, and I feel, a lot of us with scientific backgrounds, there's a huge overlap of us saying we love Interstellar and Avatar. So I actually just had this conversation with my team at a team lunch, and it was either Interstellar or Avatar for the same reason. So we think alike. We have a lot in common, which is interesting. Yeah.
I think we need to do a study on correlating PhDs versus movies. Actually.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to say that I agree with both of you, but then that will make it almost too disinteresting if I do that. So before we go to questions, a quick word, what I do, like our esteemed panelists, I basically am responsible for building products, solutions, and governance. Velatura Public Benefit Corporation is a jurisdictional authority across multiple states in the United States that essentially various states give us the job of making sure that healthcare data for all citizens in that state is used in a trustworthy and responsible way. So on top of that, because we have this great platform of state jurisdictional data, trustworthy data and responsible AI. So because of that, we kind of focus on those two. Obviously, we do a lot of work with hospitals, state governments, health insurance companies in making sure we are not a data broker, we are not a data seller. We are the people that states come to when their citizens must be protected from bad uses or unsafe uses of their data. Prior to this, I was at H2O AI as the global head of healthcare and life sciences. Before that, at Oracle for about 10 years, where I was kind of in the same neighborhood as Shelby without knowing it. And my favorite movie to break the mold is actually The Big Lebowski.
The dude.
The dude. I identify with the dude. So on that note, I want to get into really what we all have seen, discovered as leaders in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And given my healthcare background, I can't resist but put a diagnosis on it. And the diagnosis, I would say, is most organizations, when it comes to AI, ML, still suffer from this disease called pilotitis. It's a disease that can be cured, but first it has to be diagnosed. And in order to cure, there have to be guidelines, protocols, and the right people. From your experience, Shelby and Ambi, what are the most common reasons for pilotitis? This is the thing where AI pilots don't go into full scale, go into deployments, people use them, there are no feedback loops. What have you seen, and how do you think organizations can fix this disease?
Yeah, there's so much to say about this, Prashant, and I'm sure Ambi has so much to say about this. I think we're just into this really interesting time with AI where we're all so excited about it. And it's so accessible now to all of us. So the number of demos is skyrocketing, right? It's not only engineers now. Now we have Cursor. Now we've got Lovable, for example, to be able to create these apps in minutes, right? So the number of demos has grown exponentially, right? Which is I think it's a really cool phenomenon to be a part of. But as you said, Prashant, only a fraction of them, a small fraction, actually make it to production. And I think there's a number of reasons why. I think that one reason that's not the cause, it's not the underlying models themselves. So the models themselves are amazing technological progress. So the models themselves have opened new capabilities. We're all excited about them. It's not just that, because in the enterprise, it's more than the model. It takes a lot more than just a single model to build a solution that's safe, that's productive for the enterprise. It really comes down to having the proper people and processes in place to actually deploy those models. That's often what's missing. So to touch on a couple of those, and I'm sure Ambi has some examples too. I mean, I think one of the biggest ones is really basic business fundamentals. It's understanding customer needs. I think, again, we get caught up in building a demo. Oh, look at me, I can build a demo in 2 hours. But is that actually serving a customer need? We have to still have basic business practices in place. So we still need to understand our customers, understand what they are struggling with, understand their pain points, and then build AI for that. So I think that's a need. Another need, I'll say, another thing that's often missing is definition of success. Again, we often get caught up in the excitement and seeing AI generate text, generate apps. That's great, but we need a way to measure, is this progress or not? And what I'm seeing is not, teams that don't have that upfront are not the ones that are getting to production. So I'll leave it at that. Ambi, do you want to share a couple of your points as well?
Yeah. So I think you can look at it in two lenses, right? Mm-hmm. So the first lens is that the reason why a lot of these pilots happen in the first place is, I think it's symptomatic of a widespread enthusiasm and excitement to try out something. There is the promise of AI. Okay, I want to go and see what it can do, right? So that immediately manifested in, okay, I'm raising my hand, everyone raises their hand and they want to try it. So which equates to, all right, everyone within the enterprise, or at least a good chunk of an enterprise is building up some of that grassroots excitement around it. So I think there is still a positive angle to it, which is you still have that grassroots positive momentum. Now the flip side is, okay, why are these not translating to production, right? I look at these the same way you would look at, say if you're building a product, for example. Of course, there can be 10,000 features that you can put in a product, right? You can come up with 10,000 items in a backlog. Should you go and do all of those? Should you go and try all of those at the same time? Maybe not, right? So there needs to be some sort of a prioritization on what matters for an enterprise, what matters at what point in time, and by whom. So there are all of these, right? The what, why, and the whom questions that are really pertinent within an enterprise, right? And so that needs to be, that usually gets settled at a more senior level on setting the transformation agenda and doing this in a conscious manner and saying, I'm going to do this in a focused way. I'm going to take, say, a workflow end to end, and I'm going to do it top to bottom, rather than, I'll have this as a set of mushrooming pilots with, assuming that the hive mind is going to solve for all of this by itself, right? So that's where the flip side is, right? Which is, that the what, the why, and the who pieces need to be sort of figured out through a strategic agenda, and then you do that in a conscious manner rather than through letting POCs just compete with each other and then figure out whether something is going to emerge or not. So that's what we're seeing.
I wanted to add a point actually to what you were saying, Ambi. Going back to your first point around the excitement, I also wanted to echo that. I also think it's a positive thing that we're seeing as well, because this technology, large language models, AI agents now, this is fundamentally new technology. We also, none of us have, have 10 plus years experience deploying LLMs or deploying AI agents. We're all figuring this out together. So in some sense, it's great that we all are generating these demos and trying things out. So I think, I would love to keep seeing that sort of excitement, that activity, because in taking action, we are getting additional information. So we are learning. It's just that, and as we're saying, to really get it to production takes even more action. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you both brought up some excellent points, and I think we should go into a detailed discussion, a full panel on just the points you raised. I'll add one more thing that most of us don't want to talk about, especially those of us in the Valley or Valley related, which is because of the hype of AI and the fears of AI created by Frontier Labs and others. There is this thing that if you use it, we are going to lose our jobs. A comment I hear often, given the nature of what we do. We don't just focus on companies and corporations. We focus on individuals, communities, people of faith, marginalized communities, etc., because we are a public benefits corporation. So I get a lot more frank feedback than somebody who has been told to use a product. And the thing I hear the most is, are we training AI to take our kids' jobs? And unless we acknowledge the fact that we have contributed to part of that problem by saying not us, but there has been this whole conversation about AGI. Go for AGI, go for super intelligence. And what is the goal of AGI? Is to replace the human. So unless we address that elephant in the room, we have leaders like us have to work with people in operations. We have to work with business leaders. And those people get a message that's either FOMO, excitement, or fear, just pure fear. So I think it's time for us as AI developers, product people, and consulting shops to recognize those unsaid fears and address it. Because I don't think pilotitis will go away if we don't understand the fears that people don't dare explain in the workspace. I'll go to the next question, which is, you both brought up great points. And how do leaders like us make sure that these things that we are doing, two questions here, are in touch with business goals, from a strategic standpoint? And the second one is to my earlier point, where other non-technology stakeholders are involved: finance, HR, operations, customer service, right? So what is your advice on this? I'll go to you, Ambi, first, and then Shelby.
Yeah. So this is what I tell my clients as well, that the way we have been thinking about the different tools in the technology arsenal versus AI, don't think about AI as a tool, AI as a technology. It ought to be viewed as an operations enabler, period, right? Which means you look at all the operations that happens within a company, right? You're doing sales, you're doing marketing, you're doing finance, procurement, whatever it is, right? AI is a horizontal that can embed and cut across all of those, right? So think of that as an enabler, not just as a tool or technology. So when that mindset shift happens, that automatically means the way you will start going and thinking about leveraging AI and operationalizing it, deploying it, and abstracting value out of it you're not going to think about it purely as, okay, I found this LLM and then I'm going to go deploy it on whatever stack, right? The mindset will completely shift from there to say, okay, I'm going to go and figure out what is the business problem or set of business problems that I'm going to solve for. Where does it even make sense for me to go and apply traditional AI versus LLM versus RPA versus whatever programmatic modalities that you need, right? Make a conscious and frank choice there, and levels it on that and solve for those workflows and problems, right? So now the lens at which you're operating is looking at this from a business problem lens, and B, which automatically means you have to work with the business stakeholders. You're not just doing this as a technology play, right? It's a very tight interlock with the business folks, and which automatically means when you go and operationalize it and activate it, now you have to think about the adoption and the change management aspects right from the foresight, right? It can't be an afterthought that comes, okay, I did this and then something is happening, okay, no, let me get out, right? So that whole mindset shift has to happen once you start thinking about AI as an operations enabler, not just as a technology. All of these things will automatically start gluing together.
I just want to jump in here before Shelby answers, because I want to make it a little more interesting. You talked about change management. Shelby, you lead an AI research team. You are at the cutting edge of what AI is happening. How much does that last point of change management matter to someone like you? And what is your advice?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, especially, in my role, we're creating AI that often people haven't even heard of, right? That a lot of folks, and so it plays a big role in terms of having folks within the company, even or external, outside of our company, adopt what we're building. So I can give you an example of that. So one of the things that we built is a simulation engine to train agents, to deploy agents, to stress test them, and that very new idea for lots of folks in the company. But once we release that internally, it's something that we use inside of Salesforce. It increased the number of cross-functional collaborations. It increased the trust in the AI. So it's something that I think about when it comes to AI adoption, especially cutting edge AI adoption.
Great. I think lots to ponder there, to be honest.
Yeah.
You mentioned the word trust,
Yeah.
and I think trust, credibility are becoming more and more important today, not just for our internal users, but for external users. And we have a slew of governance, regulations, everything going on, which frankly, most of it is not keeping pace with the technology. It can't. So the United States, for example, has NIST as a framework that's been around for quite some time. They have modified it for generative AI. The European Union has taken a much more conservative approach with both the EU AI Act and GDPR. Various countries, there's sovereign AI efforts going on all around the world now. Switzerland launched a sovereign AI effort. UAE was the first country to do it. India is doing it now. Forget US and China, right? Everybody's doing this. ISO 42001, lot of talk now. There's talk that New York State is going to allow ISO 42001 as an alternative standard to NIST for the citizens of New York. So I want to really bring this down to what AI governance frameworks or operating models that are you all looking at? How are you ensuring, Shelby, that point you made, all important point about trust, transparency, cyber, all of that?
Yeah, there's a number of I would say governance structures I recommend having in place. I think we're in a world where multiple teams are going to be building AI. This is the reality of it. It's not just going to be the software engineering team. It's not just going to be the data science team or the research team. It's every team is involved in AI. We want to keep that. We want to keep that going, and we want each of those teams to prioritize trust responsible AI, being mindful of bias and all those things. We do want that to happen individually, but we need something centrally as well. So I think one thing that I recommend are setting up guardrails. This is something that we have at Salesforce, but I would recommend this for everyone. So when things are heading to deployment, you want to have a system in place that automatically checks and monitors and assesses responsible AI impact, that assesses trust, that assesses transparency, and so on. So practically speaking, that could mean systems that monitor inputs, monitor model outputs, that route to the right model, that don't respond given certain inputs. You still want to have centralized structure, and that centralized structure should absolutely be built, can be co-created with a number of teams. Your ethics team, your responsible AI team, your security team, your legal team, and all of this. So I think I would say that's one important structure here. Now, another structure I want to add in is you want to have some data governance in place as well. You want to have a centralized governance that sets the policies for which kind of data can be used when. Similar for models, you want to have something centralized so that it can empower freedom for lots of teams to be working on AI as long as they're adhering to these structures.
Ambi, before, I don't want to come to you for governance because I think Shelby answered a lot of things there. I do want to come to you for a different point, riffing off of what she said: monitoring, observability, etc. What is the role of things like ML ops, AI ops, LLM ops in this equation in terms of managing things like concept drift, data drift, potentially data poisoning, model changes? What advice do you have for our audience?
Yeah, so I think the first piece, and honestly, I sort of view that as like the twin of governance, right? Governance and observability sort of go hand in hand with each other, right? And I wouldn't divorce them from each other there. But when I think about all of these observability elements and governance, one of the things within IBM, we have this research wing, which we call as IBV, Institute for Business Value, which we go and survey thousands of CEOs, thousands of enterprise leaders, and we spot trends and we go and observe them. And so one of these studies that we did recently, we saw that enterprises that consciously baked in governance aspects, so security, governance, ethics, all of those, they were able to drive 32x more business impact than those who had not, right? The statistics is fairly telling, and I think we're seeing those patterns emerge that previously, when you went and talked about either trust or governance or observability, you may have met with a lot of eye rolling and, oh, why do I have to do this? Oh, that's not the fun stuff. That's not the cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
But what we are seeing emerge is that when you consciously make those choices to embed those pieces upfront, rather than after you have gone and deployed something, it's way, way more impactful, right? There are some enterprises that I work with who have deployed massive LLM ops platforms. While in tandem, we were building out an LLM-based platform for them, right? So it was not an afterthought. So when you're going and deploying, say, computer vision models at scale, or when you're going and deploying GenAI applications and agentic AI applications at scale, you're not scrambling and figuring out, after I've gone and deployed it, how am I going to monitor it? So that is already baked in. Now you just have to set up the integrations. And then I've also seen the flip side where, one of the enterprises that I work with, they built the GenAI platform. They went ahead with, an agentic use case, And then once that is in production, then there is a question and scrambling around, oh, but we forgot about the whole observability aspect of it, right? So there is really, those patterns are very telling, and those patterns are very, very evident. So definitely invest as you're setting up the capabilities to go build out your Gen AI and agentic AI applications in future. Definitely invest in building out the MLOps, DLOps, LLM ops, all the observability capabilities, right? It's an essential, and it just boosts you. Think of governance and observability. The way I think about this now is governance and observability is it's no more a control mechanism. It's again an accelerator mechanism, actually.
Yeah, I just want to keep an eye on the clock because I already see that the audience questions are coming in fast and furious and lots of them. So I just want to ask maybe one couple of questions, short and quick answers if possible. I know it's not possible given the questions I'm going to ask. KPIs and metrics. You can't improve what you can't measure. If you can't measure, you can't determine value. If you can't determine value, you go back to pilotitis. Advice for our audience. Shelby first, please.
Yeah, this is such an important topic, especially now because specifically, I'll speak on where we are with AI agents. This is something that we're focused on at Salesforce. AI agents, the whole tech industry's AI agents. We're all excited about it, but if you look, there's very few benchmarks, very few ways to actually measure agent performance in real world settings. So some of the things, for example, that my team has worked on that we've released as completely open source are new agent benchmarks that reflect enterprise tasks. So you're going to see more and more of that, I would say, over the next year. If you look on Archive, you look on GitHub, you're going to see more and more of this because it is such a need in business right now. So what I want you to take away from that is, as you're thinking of course, when you're deploying AI in general, you need benchmarks, but specifically, if you are thinking of AI agents, know that benchmarks may not already exist for your use case. You may need to build them yourself. You should look at a lot of the what's released, look at the research and think about, how would I build an evaluation data set? How would I build a benchmark that measures if this AI agent is actually performing correctly for my users, for my customers? This is super important. So from a technical standpoint, we need more and more benchmarks. They're definitely needed.
I'm going to come to a different question to you, Ambi. Obviously, as leaders, when you're seeing these things, there is good stuff that happens, there's bad stuff that happens, right? Or not optimal results, shall we say, given the topic. When such unexpected shifts happen within an organization, do you have any advice on how people should deal with it beyond having their hair on fire?
Yeah. So one of the approaches that we typically work with in clients is what we call as an IBM Garage methodology. And the approach there is that in some areas, and this is it doesn't have to be for all types of work. In some areas, you may choose to say, hey, I'm going to try out a bunch of new novel things, and the way I'm going to do this is a iterate fast, fail fast approach. So I'm going to do, I've got like 50 different ideas, and I don't know if all 50 are going to work or not. And I'm going to push it through a funnel, and I'm going to go and take a few ideas, build some prototypes, quickly test out in a very controlled setting, in a very controlled sandbox, without a whole lot of impact radius. And then you say, okay, this is working, this is not working. If it's not working, then shelve it for future, and then move on to the next idea, right? So there are ways to do this work, when you're thinking about a lot of really great ideas and you want to just cycle through them and then figure out, and you were worried that, hey, some of those could be risky. There is a way to approach and work through those in a fairly controlled and an iterative manner, so you're not getting lost, right? So pick the ideas that win and then go and start scaling them out.
I want to respect the fact that we have a few seconds, and because I have the advantage of seeing audience questions, I'm actually going to jump ahead. And we got lots of audience questions. So it's fascinating because I think our audience definitely loved your thoughts on this topic. And the first question I see here is Shelby and Ambi. Please share your thoughts on the trends you see in our industry in the next 1 to 2 years. If I was going to say 3 to 5 years, I wouldn't be credible anymore because the space is changing so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to comment on this. I think, you may have heard this, but there's a saying that 2025 is the year of the AI agent. So everyone's talking about agents now. That's already here. So what we're going to see in the next 6-12 months, we're going to see increasingly improved agents, thanks to what we talked about earlier, the benchmarks, these new benchmarks that are emerging. Those are giving us a North Star to make agents even better performing. So keep an eye out for that. I think we're also at a new frontier with multi-agents as well. We're going to start to see, once we're getting one agent to work well, reliably, we've measured it, we've improved it, we've got all the processes and people in place to deploy them. We're starting to see people starting to deploy single agents. We're going to see multiple agents deployed working collaboratively. Of course, as we talk about tying back, it's going to need increased governance, right? More than one agent, more is going to, more governance will be needed. But I would say, so again, I would say next 6-12 months, increased agent performance, multi-agent systems, increased personalization.
Ambi?
Yeah, couple of trends I'm seeing. One is if you look at the type of tasks that LLMs and agents have been fairly good at so far is, we have largely optimized coding. We have largely optimized document processing. So if I look at SDLC, there is fair maturity. If I look at all the back office document processing functions, really good solid foundations. Lots of enterprises are capitalizing on that and then going and scaling it out in a really big manner. The next frontier I see is on more consumer facing. I'm not talking about like chatbots, but if you think about image generation and video generation modalities are of now breaking the frontier to get into fully enterprise scale, mainstream level scale. Right? So I think that's a modality. Like if you look at all the marketing functions and the CX functions go gaga over the next 2 years on all of this. So that's one, right? The second, on agents in general, right? Echoing Shelby's thought, there's benchmark or organization called METR that actually measures the amount of time, how the trends of agents solving tasks has been trending. And the cool thing is that every 6 months, the length of the 6 to 7 months, the length of the time that an agent can solve is doubling, right? And we were in the order of seconds probably a couple years back. Now we are definitely the realm of a minute, few minutes, and Sonnet I think has hit like they've stretched the boundary to like 36 hours or something. So you're going to see the length of tasks completely zoom out, which means you'll get to agents actually doing fairly reliable, not solving small tasks. They'll start to do fairly large tasks across your operation. So every operational team within an enterprise will now start seeing, okay, I can leverage and deploy agents for meaningful tasks that can do complex challenges.
I love your points, Ambi, and I just wanted to also double down on the first point you said, because I think it's just so important that I just wanted to double down on it. You mentioned multimodality. If we think about all the AI progress that we've made over the past few years, we think about generative models, we think about LLMs. It's all been about text, and text is the biggest modality in the enterprise, right? So we are making great progress. But to your point, Ambi, videos coming next, images are coming next. We haven't even touched those, right? So you're going to see, if you're following AI research, if you're following what's happening at the cutting edge, we're thinking about it. We've released some models, open source, that are multimodal. It's coming, everyone. So now imagine an agent that's not only dealing with text documents, but maybe images, video, audio, even, right? Voice is coming. So really exciting. We have a lot coming for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you both spoke a lot about agents and stuff because that's really right. 2025 was the year of agents starting.
Yep.
It was really not the year of agents. 2026, I think, hopefully will be the
Mm.
year of agents. I would say a couple of things to riff off, and because
Yeah.
both organizations have a rich history of doing this, IBM and Salesforce. I see this whole idea of moats disappearing. Model performance
Mm.
is going to matter less and less. It's a big trend I see. You already see that.
Mhm.
Kimi K2, the latest open source thinking model, open source from China, is beating or exceeding OpenAI's latest models today. So I think moats are going to go away. Your model is no longer going to be a differentiator or a moneymaker for you because day after tomorrow, there'll be a new open source option. I also see the increase of open source in America as these moats disappear, only
Mm.
because it's going to make
Yeah.
business sense for companies to go open source rather than try to create moats that don't exist that are going to be beaten. I just want to keep the fact that we've got a few more
Prashant,
minutes.
I actually want
Oh,
to
go
ask
ahead.
that point. I think what you're saying is very extremely important because this whole era started with, as to your point, these different models that were beating each other and claiming those as moats. I agree that you're right that all of these models are getting better and better, and now there's equivalent open source ones that are totally free to use. I still think one potential moat lies in domain specific data. That I think that is really going to be the differentiator, because if we think about it, whether it's open source or closed source, those models need to access some data with RAG, retrieval augmented generation, right? Or you can make the models specific to the use case through fine tuning, and now it makes the model. It would be hard to replace. It would be hard to duplicate that model unless you had the data that your business has access to. So I think as we go forward, what's really going to make one business's AI distinct from another is the data that they have access to. Yeah.
Great point. I know we are getting to the end of the session. I think with the kind of insights you both bring to the table and our audience questions, we can continue this for the whole day, but people won't like us because we are at lunchtime. So we have one time for one last question, which again is an audience question. And I think this is a fantastic question here. It's a good way to end. Put your thinking hats on, your experience hats on, and predict. What are some early indicators you have seen that an AI pilot is likely going to succeed versus not? What can organizations that are not at the maturity that we are at, what pilot should they decide on if they should, and when should they stop?
I'll add right away when I work on pilots or or evaluate other pilots. One huge indicator that tells me if it's going to go to GA is if it's solving a real customer pain point. And if they can specify that in the first sentence when they talk about what they've built. That's fundamental. That's it. That's the foundation of what it means to build for a business. So if they have that and that's convincing, I believe in it.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I think going back to what I mentioned earlier, it all boils down to three simple ingredients, right? Value, buy-in, and feasibility. So are you able to articulate value, and is it meaningful?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the internal buy-in, right? You need to have the right champions.
So
You're
true.
not building something in a vacuum and trying to launch something. You got to have the business buy-in. You need to have the right stakeholders. You have the buy-in, and then a lot of times we overlook some of those. So those
Mm-hmm.
elements, and then of course the feasibility, right? Do things that are feasible with today's technology.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Absolutely. So thank you again. We are a few seconds away. I just wanted to thank you both, our panelists, for such a scintillating conversation. Definitely not rehearsed, as everybody in the audience can recognize. I would also like to thank Argyle, Brittany, Naya, and Nick for doing all of the stuff to get us Most importantly, I thank our audience. You could have chosen to do something else, but you came to hear our panelists instead. So my gratitude, and on behalf of Argyle on that. Just last comment over here, because we still have a few seconds and I don't want the audience to lose out. Are you folks on LinkedIn, social? Are there ways people can contact you? Are you open to it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, of course. On LinkedIn, yes.
Yeah. LinkedIn.
Awesome. Awesome. On that note, I'll again thank you very much. And I'm sure this is not going to be a last of the conversation. You're going to hear from these two fine folks. On that note, I will turn it back to you, Nick.
Great. Well, this was awesome. And thank you all for such an insightful panel discussion. And I want to thank everybody else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. Our next session will begin at 12:35 p.m. Eastern Time, which will be a keynote presentation titled Agentic AI, Farce or Force for Business Success. Please click on the join button that will appear on your screen to be redirected to the next session, and we look forward to seeing you there.